Welcome, Mrs. Yogita Swarup, ma'am. Can you hear us? May I draw attention of Mrs. Yogita Swarup? Hear us, ma'am?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining.
Have you received our PPT?
Yes, we have received and my colleagues have organized it as per the sequence.
Right, thank you.
Mr. Dheeraj, we can invite Dr. Rajesh Rao, Additional Secretary, whenever he is free.
Well, you can start it now.
Sir, we can start, sir. Sir is just coming.
Yeah.
Sir.
Ria, I think Parnasha, we should start right now.
Yes, sir, we should.
Go ahead, please. So, good afternoon, friends. Can you hear me, Parnasha? Just acknowledge once.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
Thank you so much. So, good afternoon, friends. My name is Srinivas Chari, and I teach at Administrative Staff College of India, and I have deep interest in urban development, water, and sanitation. And I'll be the co-moderator of this webinar, along with colleague Mr. Shashanka. Shashanka, you can probably raise your hand to acknowledge your presence in this large gathering. So, on behalf of the National Fecal Sludge and Septage Management Alliance, which I will explain to you a little briefly what it's all about, I extend a warm welcome to Dr. Rajesh Rao, who is Additional Secretary at Niti Aayog. I would introduce him a little later. Thank you very much, sir, for joining this afternoon. I would also extend a warm welcome to all the eminent panelists as well as the speakers today. Very importantly, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all the city officials and state officials as well as innovators who have joined. Large numbers have joined today. So I would like to thank all of you for taking out your time and joining for today's conversation on safety and mechanization in urban sanitation, innovations, gaps, and opportunities. Now, a brief about NFSSM Alliance. It's an alliance of like-minded organizations which have come together, very eminent organizations. We have, CEPT University, Indian Institute of Human Settlements, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, USAID, and a number of organizations, Center for Science and Environment, and a large number you can see on the screen. Over 28 different organizations and institutions have come together for the first time for a common goal: how to promote safe sanitation in this country, particularly the fecal sludge and septage management. Human-centric innovations for safety and well-being is actually the centrality to the NFSSM Alliance program. So this conversation about safety and mechanization and innovation is squarely on the agenda of the NFSSM Alliance. So again, on behalf of NFSSM Alliance, I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you. Just to mention, ASCII is also one of the members of the association, and hence I am part of this. Now, A brief about today's webinar. We believe it's a very, very important conversation today. A brief context before I hand it over to my colleague Seshankar. As we know that 65 to 70% of urban households are on on-site toilet systems. They're not connected to sewer systems, but they are on-site systems like septic tanks and pit latrines, both single pit, twin pit toilets. Now, these toilets are not connected to pipe infrastructure. They are standalone toilets, and the feces, the human waste, gets digested or partially digested, and then this sludge gets accumulated in these toilets, and then this sludge has to be periodically removed. This sludge has to be removed, evacuated, safely transported, and safely treated without causing risk to those who are involved in this particular actions of evacuation, transportation, and treatment. So we need to de-risk this whole actions. Now, very importantly, we need to recognize that we have added almost 9 crore toilets in the last 4 to 5 years as part of this Swachh Bharat mission, about 70 odd lakhs in urban areas and rest of them in the rural areas. Now, the risk potential has increased because these toilets have to be periodically desludged, periodically transported and safely managed. Hence, this conversation of minimizing the risk, eliminating the risk, minimizing mortality and morbidity is super important for our country at this point in time. Now, we need innovations. We need new ways of working to minimize the risk. We cannot afford to have accidents. We cannot afford to have incidents. Now we need greater mechanization. We need greater financing to promote these innovations and mechanization. And very importantly, we need new business models to sustain these innovations. Hence, this conversation that we are having in this webinar. Very importantly, its mechanization is not the only panacea. We need to make sure that these actions, these products and processes are human-centric. For example, the personal protective equipment that are available in the market, are they conducive for workers to use them? Are they conducive for women workers to use them? These are the questions that we will be asking during this part of this webinar. Very importantly, on top of all this, we need greater regulation. So today, the focus of our conversation is about how to make urban India, not only urban India, India per se, the cities, states, and the country as such, how do we make it zero incident? How do we make it incident free so that our workers, frontline workers, are not affected? Not even one individual is affected because of this whole action of sanitation provision in the country. So this webinar is a modest attempt to bring very critical stakeholders, and I'm thankful to all of them. We have policymakers like Rajesh Rao, like Mr. Danakishore, like Ms. Yogita Swaroop and others policymakers at the helm of the affairs. We also have financing organizations like NSKFDC, and we have innovators like Kamavida, in fact, Hyderabad Water Board is not only a policymaker, but also they are also into heavy innovation. So we have these three actors, both policymakers, innovators, and the financing organizations coming together for setting an agenda not only for the current, but also for the future. Fix the gaps, but also promote innovations, both product innovations as well as process innovations. So that's the agenda for today. Now today, it's a short webinar of 1.5 hours, so I'm conscious of the time. I'm not going to introduce at length of all the speakers, but I take the liberty of introducing briefly. The speaker profile is already shared with all the invitees, so I'm not going to read out, but just to briefly introduce the key speakers and panelists today. I'm extremely thankful to Dr. K. Rajesh Rao for joining us today. He's Additional Secretary at Niti Aayog. But the best part about him is not only looking after urban development at Niti Aayog, he's also looking after social development programs. He's looking at livelihoods program. So he brings a phenomenal convergence of actions that are needed for this sector. In fact, he is not a bureaucrat in a sense. He is actually a development professional. He has worked in large development projects like urban poverty alleviation programs and urban development programs. He worked in the National Urban Health Mission prior to this. So he brings both development sector, health portfolio experience, as well as urban development program. So I'm extremely thankful to him for joining us today to deliver keynote address. We have with us Mr. Danakishore. He's from the Indian Administrative Service, like Mr. Rajesh Rao. He is the Managing Director of the Hyderabad Water Board, a Prime Minister awardee for the excellence that he has done as a district collector. And he has brought in a phenomenal amount of social innovation in Hyderabad Water Board, along with a couple of partner organizations like Dicky, so which he will talk about. We have with us Ms. Yogita Swarup. She is the economic advisor at the Ministry of Social Justice, but also the managing director of the National Safai Karamchari Finance Development Corporation, a very critical piece in this whole idea of safety and promotion and welfare of the workforce. So thank you, ma'am, for joining us. She's from the Indian Economic Service, phenomenal experience in the social sector and the development sector. Thank you for joining us today. We have a very important person who's been doing a phenomenal work for the society, Mr. Padma Shri Ravikumar Naragaru. He's a Padma Shri awardee. He is the national president of Dicky, who is actually promoting very innovative business models across the country, not only in Hyderabad, but now they have taken it to Delhi. They're working in Delhi in a big way, and also through Dicky, they are promoting across the country, converting the so-called Safai Karamcharis into social enterprises. Phenomenal work. So thank you very much for joining us today, Ravi Kumar Garu, for this webinar. We have with us Mr. Krishna, is a great innovator, phenomenal service, and alumni of Indian Institute of Management. He's a managing director of Kamavida. And when he founded this company, he started his CV is very, very interesting. He started with 501 rupees. I don't know why that extra 1 rupee, but I think there must be some reason. He started with 501 rupee as an investment. Now he has sort of introduced more than 6,000 vehicles, mechanized solutions to different cities and different towns in the country. So Mr. Krishna comes with a phenomenal experience of corporate world, but actually brought in innovation in this sanitation space, both in the area of solid waste as well as in the liquid waste sector. Thank you, Mr. Krishna. And he is going to speak about the product innovations that they are introducing in this sector. We have with us Mr. Rakesh Kasba. Very interesting again. He worked in the government for more than 25 years, took a voluntary retirement and got into this sanitation innovation space with a new solution, which is very, very interesting, low cost, customized solution for low income settlements called Jalod Bust. Why it is called Jalod Bust is an interesting story by itself. He's going to explain it and he's going to talk about his product innovation and how it is actually helping in minimizing accidents and improving the welfare of the system. I would like to again introduce Ms. Sharma. She is from the CDD Society, an innovator. They have brought in a new product called Gulper, which is actually very, very useful for slum areas, narrow lanes where big trucks cannot go, and it's a low cost but very, very practical intervention. Ma'am, thank you very much for joining us today during this webinar. And finally, last but not the least, we also have with us Mr. Patil. He is a co-founder and director of Saniverse. He is the one who led this study on why people are not using personal protective equipment despite providing this PPE. What are the barriers for people, workers not using PPE? What are the gaps? Is it the product gap? Is this personal protective equipment not suitable for different environments, different humidity conditions? So what are the behavior barriers? He's going to talk about it. Thank you, Mr. Dhaval, for joining us. And most important person in this conversation, which I think I will introduce and then I'll pass on to, is Mr. Shashankar. He's an engineer and a product of IIM Ahmedabad. He's going to co-moderate this conversation. Before becoming a researcher, he was leading this organization called CDD. So now he's researching in the area of safe sanitation. So this is a profile of the speaker. Time is precious. So without wasting much time, I request Mr. Shashanka to set the context in less than 5 minutes.
Thank you, Professor Jari. Good afternoon to everyone. Without much ado, I'll jump into the subject at hand. Between the time we discussed the idea and the concept for this webinar and today, I've seen in the major national newspapers at least one incident of death due to asphyxiation in a septic tank. And I'm sure you must have also noticed the news. In the last 5 years, if you see on your screen, the number of deaths have been consistent. In the last year, unfortunately, it's been much more. So this is the reality. This is what is happening on the ground when it comes to desludging of septic tanks and single pits. These deaths are attributed to even sewer cleaning also. So there is a bifurcation here. But the reality is that, Ria, can we go to the next slide, please? What's happening on the ground is this, as Professor Chari said, 65 to 70% of urban India and almost all of rural India relies on single pits and septic tanks. In the last 5 years alone, we have built a tremendous number of these. And so the problem has grown remarkably in the last 5 years. And in terms of solutions, also, the Manual Scavenging Prohibition Act came in and was reinforced again in 2013. There has been a lot of mechanization that happened in India in sanitation as a response to the Manual Scavenging Act. So there is the law, there is a bit of technology, and yet the reality is that deaths are happening. And that is the juncture at which we are today. The problem also has expanded. So these three separate ideas have to be put together and seen together to understand what's happening. And when you put these three together, there are three things that jump out at us. One is we feel that there is an acute lack of awareness of the risks, of the safety protocols, of the right equipment to use among the practitioners, among the actual workers on the ground. So that is, a lot of these deaths are avoidable deaths with simple practices. So that is the awareness issue. The second is that this is a legacy problem. A lot of these pits and septic tanks are very poorly designed. They lack access, physical access. And that is why people are forced to enter these in order to empty them. And that causes all of these incidents to happen. And the third issue, which is less acknowledged, which is probably not discussed as much, is the affordability aspect of this. The cost of desludging for the poor, the cost cutting that happens, the cutting of corners that happens during mechanization, and also the poor monitoring of the regulations that are in place. This is another reason why these incidents are happening. So I will show you a couple of glimpses of what's happening on the ground in terms of access and the poorly designed septic tanks. But please keep in mind that all three of these reasons are equally important in addressing the problem. Next slide, please, Ria. So if you see, our urban planning leaves a lot of gaps in terms of being able to provide services where you have narrow lanes. Mechanization, for mechanization, this is a failed market. This market is not available to mechanization in all the forms. You see on the right side, the toilet is somewhere deep inside, and hence the pipe has to go all the way in order to get desludging. So you suffer pressure losses, you suffer a lot of other things. And this problem is very acute in hilly areas where you have drops of 30, 40 meters, and hence the pressure doesn't come in. And so manual scavenging is resorted to. Next slide, please. Again, this is a typical example of even newer septic tanks. They completely lack access ports. How do you get in? How do you do this desludging? So the problem here becomes that cost escalates. Every time you want to do desludging, you have to break open the slab. There are some areas where the septic tank is under the toilet. It's completely inaccessible, and hence cost goes up, and therefore people resort to cutting corners in the thing, and safety incidents happen. Next slide, please. Even when mechanization is in place, and India has done actually relatively very well compared to other countries in our similar bracket in terms of mechanization. But even in terms, when it comes to mechanization, costs are so high, we tend to do what Indians fondly call jugaad. And even in this sector, there is different kinds of jugaad that keeps happening. This is one example where unfortunately maintenance money is not there, and hence to open the valve we are using different techniques. Next slide, please. The other thing to notice in this picture is the complete lack of personal protective equipment when doing an occupation that is naturally inclined towards those, requires that, because your daily exposure to sewage and excreta. And so even with mechanization, the lack of awareness about the risks is palpable and understandable. More on this later with Dhawal. Next slide, please. So that was a glimpse of all the small and big issues with respect to adoption of safe practices. Keep in mind that the number of deaths is actually increasing, even with mechanization increasing. So the question that we are asking today in the webinar is, what technical innovations will cater to these legacy issues? What are the business models which will actually make sure that the felt value, the need which is not felt in society today, is compensated for, and hence the payments come in proportion to the actual cost of desludging, and hence make this affordable and viable. Affordable for the poor and viable for the business people who are providing these services. And the third and equally important part is, how do we take care of the welfare of these sanitation workers who are doing yeoman service to society, but I don't think we appreciate the efforts that they put in, or they appreciate the services that they are providing to us. So with these three questions, I will stop here and hand over to Chari sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shashankar, for setting the context. So he posed a very important, I would say, agenda for us. How do we get a zero incident desludging paradigm where there's no incident happens in our country? This is very common in industry context. If you go to ONGC, if you go to BPCL, HPCL, the first thing you see on the board when you enter these premises is, we are a zero incident facility. So a city should also be a zero incident facility while we provide safe sanitation. So that's the agenda he has said before us. Likewise, technology innovation is super important. What sort of technology innovations we need? For example, Indian Railways had a challenge of human contact with feces, but they brought in what is called a DRDO toilet, which was a game changer, which has reduced the risk of human interface with the feces, which used to be on the tracks, which used to be all over the place. So I think there is a super important agenda right now where we need to bring in a lot of technology innovations and financing to support these technology innovations. Now, what are these technology innovations? Are they happening? Are they at par with the Western society? I don't know. That's where we need Mr. Krishna to tell us what's happening in this space as far as the technological innovations, and what is lacking, what are the gaps, and what support you need, sir, as a thought leader to make it happen, where these technologies go to every corner of the country, nook and breadth. Over to you, Mr. Krishna.
Thank you so very much, sir, and good afternoon, everybody. Absolute honor and a delight. 25 years, it's been a long journey for me working in this sector. And the only thing I can perhaps say is that there is so much that we don't know in this space, that every day is a learning curve for us. Every day we come across situations that are, completely a stark reality, and it's a new way of looking at the whole system. When we're talking about death, we're talking about these mishaps. I wish to put in context how this happens, because when you generalize it, you get a feeling that this is an ULB failure. By and large, I think the ULB, the ones that they cater to, the septic tank that they service or they maintain, by and large is not done manually or by using means and methods that are not prescribed. There is a category of another category of people who are engaged in this activity, who are contract laborers, who are sometimes or most times attached to the ULB. They run a bigger risk. So ULBs will perhaps conveniently say, listen, this is not my guy, this is a contractor. So by and large, when people die, you are not looking at a ULB personnel who is paid by the ULB wearing the khaki uniform. He seldom dies. The guy who dies perhaps is more of the contracting community. There's a third community which is also involved in this desludging practice. Those are those people sitting in the daily mandi, labor mandi. They sit there offering themselves as an all-in-one system, equipment, manpower, everything. They're just sitting there and waiting. Now, who goes to them? People who live in unorganized, unauthorized houses, because they don't get covered by the ULB. They have a septic tank which is overflowing, so they can't even go and register the complaint there. So where do you go? You go to the labor mandi. I think majority of the deaths are happening there. And when you look at it in a collective number, you are misled to believe that the ULBs are not perhaps doing things what they are supposed to do correctly. So this is, I think, a distinction that we need to make when we look at this whole picture in context. Now, how do we stop these guys from jumping into a sewer line or jumping into a septic tank for a livelihood? It is a socio-economic problem. These guys are unfortunately a legacy issue, like Mr. Satank rightly said. These are the privileged Safai Karamcharis. They can only do, and they are destined to do this job. They unfortunately are the third generation, fourth generation people who have mastered the skill. But unfortunately, this skill is not recognized as a skill. This skill is considered to be something that is available only in the labor mandi. And therefore, these guys time and again go into houses and they die. This happens in New Delhi. This happens in big hotels. When you go and complain to perhaps an ULB, you have to pay upfront money and perhaps wait for the ULB machine to come. So when they are in a hurry, what do? They quickly go to the unorganized market and find these guys to come. So is this a technology problem? This is an administrative or a regulatory problem. I really don't know, even if we perhaps, first of all, I'm very honored to hear the word Jugaad, because I am not ashamed of the fact that Jugaad is innovation. And just that, somebody gave it a word saying Jugaad, and it is not condescending, because in India, when you can build a house which is not accessible from the road, just 40 feet inside, you have to do innovation, which I think day in and day out we do. In fact, I've been talking to Madam Swaroop for an initiative, for a plan that she has in mind. And some of the requirements she has is that the machine must be small. At the same time, it must carry the maximum load. It must be able to go into a narrow lane, but have the biggest tank to reduce the cost of freight, because these are absolute ground realities. If you have a big machine, you can't go into a narrow lane. If you have a narrow laned machine, it can't pick up enough silage to make it economical for multiple trips to be made. So this is a holistic problem, and it is purely not about. And I can challenge anyone from anywhere in the world that a machine that we can make in India would be on par with any machine that is available worldwide in terms of its component, its safety. But I think the problem here is, who is going to address these unorganized sector? Who is going to tell these guys, hey, you can't do this job the way you are doing it, because if they don't do this job today, they are not going to go back home with that 500 rupees. On the way, when they earn 500, 100 for mutton, 100 for tharra, and 300 goes home. When I call them for training, they say, I can't come because who is going to give me that 500 bucks today? So we really have a different kind of a problem. The problem is purely not about equipment, about, ULB managing, but how to include all houses, even authorized or unauthorized, into the mainstream mechanism of cleaning. Delhi Jal Board tried doing this. In fact, Delhi Jal Board, Delhi has the largest unauthorized sector going. And most people use the facility of these private contractors. So they come with their improvised jugaad machine and they suck the silage and they very conveniently go and put it in the Yamuna. So I think the Pollution Control Board issued a show cause notice to Jal Board, and they were on the verge of putting up a tender. And they decided to offer these services to the unauthorized sector, unauthorized colonies on a no-charge basis. And
Mr.
maybe
Krishna,
charge.
there is a discussion on the Delhi experience through Mr. Ravi is going to talk about it. We will get into the details. But if you can highlight some of the product innovations that you have brought into the market, so I think it will be very useful to understand because not everybody knows about this. So I think it's important to communicate.
While we talked about the problems being in narrow lanes, this is exactly what happened in Delhi. And the Chief Minister of Delhi called up Mr. Gautam, one of his ministers called up Mr. Narra, and I went along with him. The problem was majority of people who died cleaning sewer lines in narrow lanes. We sat through the problem. We designed a machine for Delhi Jal Board. It went through a trial. We did a prototype machine. We ran it for a year. That machine incidentally also got an award under the PMO's challenge. And Mr. Narra was instrumental in deploying 200 such machines in Delhi. So if we are able to interact more openly in a more friendlier environment with the suffering person, with the actual person who's undergoing the pain, we will be able to innovate a lot. But somehow that opportunity, that platform doesn't exist. Allow us to talk to people well, allow us to understand the actual problem, and I'm sure we will have a solution for every situation that India has. And we don't need to break these lanes up. We can provide machines. We have access to these narrow lanes. We've got machines that can go and pick up silage from 60 meters, 70 meters, 200 meters apart. And the machines are still capable. Just that very often we don't know who needs them. We don't know how to reach this market, because this market is not necessarily controlled by the ULB. So there is a gap here about how do we service this market that belongs to nobody. And then if I go to a private contractor there and say, hey, listen, buy the high-end machine, he can't afford it because he's offering a service for 800 and for 300 rupees. He's unauthorized, and therefore he does everything which is against the law to manage his income. And not that he makes money, he is still struggling. His economic end, if you see contractors in these small cities, they are not well off. Unlike in Hyderabad, majority of contractors who work in Hyderabad, I must say, the delight to work with them. They want better innovation. They want to invest in technology because they get paid for it well. So I think the entire ecosystem needs to be addressed. Technology per se is not a problem. ULB's concern is not a problem, but we need to sit together and somehow, design a system that addresses the whole issue.
Okay, let me just, before I request Dhanak to talk about Delhi experience, Hyderabad experience, let me ask you, so to summarize, what you're saying is that we do have technologies and Kama with as like an organization can customize solutions even for a narrow lanes, and even in low income communities, you can park the truck somewhere and then you can go even 100 meters away or 100 feet away. That's
yes. It's
so
being
that
done.
it's been done. Okay, fantastic. I think this is good news. And are there any major gaps in terms of, apart from what you have said about the informal markets, are there any challenges with regard to incubating technologies or promoting new innovations as a company?
See, innovation is something that we are always doing, because one side we don't sell machines that are standard. We are in fact a sewerman's boutique. Every day we have a tender. Every tender by itself has a new specification, and no ULB likes to copy another tender because I guess it reflects poorly on the local engineer there. So every day we make machines that are unique, that are designed to specific needs. To that extent, and plus we deal with chassis. For example, we have moved from Euro 4 to Euro 6. The entire undercarriage of the chassis has changed. So we need to redesign every possible machine, and we have done that. So I am concerned technology, know-how, innovation, these are all not at all a challenge today, as long as we know that there is a big enough opportunity for us to go and, provide service to. And
Okay,
this
I'll stop here.
Sure.
I will stop here because I think you made a very valid point. One, there should be a big enough opportunity, and then there is a need for a good ecosystem to bring in this technology. Now I invite Mr. Danakishore, where they have, as a MD of Hyderabad Water Board, they brought in a phenomenal social innovation. I think it's very, very important to listen to the Hyderabad story, which has been taken all the way to the Prime Minister's office for replication across the country. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Chariji. Good evening to Rajesh Garu, Additional Secretary, and other participants. Now, I can well understand, when Kamveda's anguish of not having a, friendly kind of work atmosphere to bring in innovations. There certainly innovations are happening in government sector. Only thing is they need to be scaled up, actually. Like, we have done some innovations with Kamveda and with Dicky. So, these mini jet machines, they've been brought in. They have brought in a lot of, relief for the narrow line streets where sewers never used to get cleaned, and they used to get cleaned manually. And there used to be deaths also now and then. So that has been avoided. And recently, we have also innovated with some retired engineers of Hindustan Aeronautics Limited. They brought in an instrument called sewer crock, which goes inside with robotic technology, cleans up the sewer lines. And our sewer lines are having a wonderful experience now because, the sewer pipe life increases, my O&M cost comes down. So there are some innovations happening. We have also some more innovations, maybe some other, scenario will come where I can share that. Now let's coming back to, this co-treatment and FSTP. I congratulate Mr. Chari again for bringing in this national, platform. Is a very, very important. I've been working in, municipal administration for last 6 years. I worked as a commissioner. Now I'm on Metro Water Board. Previously, I worked as a director of municipal administration. This aspect of innovation is very, very important, particularly in co-treatment and FSTPs. Because any major city in India, for that matter, any 2-tier, 3-tier cities also, they have an expanding areas. A core city will be there. There will be a network of sewer network will be there where sewage is collected, septage is collected, and it's treated in STPs. But it is a problem with the peripheral cities, peripheral parts of the city, any city for that matter. There will not be enough sewer network will be there, and there will not be STPs also. There, what happens? All the septage is disposed, unscientifically on the, dried up lands, and also sometimes in sewer lines, and also sometimes directly into lake beds or lakes, live lakes, and whatever drains you have, what small rivers you have. And because of that high, high BOD demand and high E. coli and other microorganisms, that it becomes highly polluting, and it destroys our lake atmospheres, our sewerage lines get destroyed, and it puts undue pressure on STPs. And this has been a huge kind of furor now all over the country. In fact, Honorable NGT, National Green Tribunal, is coming heavily on all of us, local bodies and governments and water utilities, to install STPs so that all sewage produced in the cities and urban areas is treated to standards. There will not be any let out of untreated water getting into local water bodies or local rivers. In Hyderabad, our production is about 1900 million liters are produced per day, sewage water. We're able to treat about 770 million liters per day. We are able to treat 26 STPs. Nearly about 1200 MLDs STPs let out into our rivers and our lakes actually. Now, normal water comes and joins, or grey water comes and joins a lake, or can you go back to the first place? I'm not at all presenting. I'm giving an introduction. Go to the initial slides. Let me set into context first. So, when normal grey water coming from a kitchen joins your lake or your river, it hardly it pollutes, but it's a very less pollution. But when it comes to septage, directly joining lakes or water bodies, destroys the complete ecosystem of the lake or the river. So what is to bring an STP, you need to, if I have to spend these STPs right now, I'm going for tenders, it may take 2 to 3 years to construct them with an investment of nearly 3,500 crores. So now what to do interim? There is a solution that comes to fecal sludge treatment and co-treatment. Fecal sludge, if you can treat, your lakes are, for time being, are interim measure till your regular STP, scientific STP comes. The lake ecosystems or lake water is protected, river waters are protected. And that's what we have done in Hyderabad. We have about 26 STPs. We are planning in 18 STPs this co-treatment now. There is a difference between a co-treatment and a fully, devoted fecal sludge treatment. Co-treatment, what happens? You bring in the septage, homogenize it, holding it in a holding tank, and that you let it into primary treatment of the STP. Depending upon the the gap you have an STP functioning, you can load the fecal sludge in that. So with ASCII, we have with Mr. Chari of ASCII, we have coordinated on this one. ASCII has played a big role for us in implementing this technology for us. So these are the 18 STPs where we are planning right now. Co-treatment is being done at 4 STPs. Next one, please. So this is a basic FSTP.
Sir, if I may, sir, interrupt a little bit. Sorry, apologies. Sir, if you could highlight the experiment you have done to convert Safai Karamcharis into social enterprises. These 90 contracts have been signed. I think that would be extremely relevant for today's conversations.
Thank you, Mr. Chari. Okay, let me interrupt here because here also we are going for similar kind of experiment. No, we have, as I earlier told you, with the Dicky we have coordinated, and also with the Kamvida, we have designed a small, minimal, smaller jet missions, water jet missions to clean our sewer lines. But this jet mission, each one will cost about 19 lakhs. All these machines have been given to former Safai Karmacharis. Each one got about 2 machines. Nearly about 40 people have been made into entrepreneurs. We have taken the loan from our own state government scheduled cost welfare organizations, and also Stand Up India assistance. And we have also T-Pride assistance is coming for that. So we could give that kind of subsidized kind of investments for them so that they could participate. We have not given any reservation for these Safai Karmacharis. They have participated in an open tender with a subsidized investment coming from these 3 sources, state government and central government. They could win the contract, and they have been implementing it for last 2 years with us. About 65 machines have been given to 34 Safai Karmacharis, and each vehicle they're able to make about 35 to 40,000 rupees per month income. They're paying their annual, monthly installments they're able to pay. And it's been highly successful. It's a social innovation in the sense that Safai Karmacharis have been made entrepreneurs. And secondly, it is also a sanitation innovation because when you make these jetting vehicles, smaller vehicles, they're able to get into smaller streets and 3-meter width streets, and they're able to clean it up. The sanitation impact is there. Sewerage overflows have come down. And it's also financial innovation because we have made them to compete with the open tender, open tender with the open contractors. I mean, market contractors on market, they have been selected. So that's been appreciated. It's been, good training had been given to them. SOPs have been given to them. With that, in last 3 years, there is no single death in Hyderabad, the city, on sewer lines. And similar experiment we want to do also. Secondly, we are also coming with a much smaller, small jet machines. Now we are coming with all the bastis, all the slums where we are having, sewer lines. Normally water pollutions happen here. Next couple of months, we will be introducing 150 smaller vehicles, again with a social innovation, and maybe Safai Karmacharis and then backward community sections, they'll be participating in this, again in an open tender mechanism. So that will be also getting through. So this is for, what Mr. Chari has asked.
So
now,
sorry, sir. I will come back to you with 1 or 2 questions coming from the audience. I will not take much time, but there are 2-3 issues that we want to discuss with you on the business model. So I will just request you for just wait for a couple of more minutes. I now request Dr. Rajeshwar Rao, who is Additional Secretary, Niti Aayog, to reflect on this subject and what Niti Aayog as a apex organization looks at this and what can be done or what should be done. I would now request him to deliver his keynote speech on this occasion.
Good afternoon, friends. Thank you very much, Professor Srinivas Chari. Good to see you after a long time.
Yes,
and I really compliment ASCII and NFSSM for organizing this webinar, which is a very, very timely exercise. And also COVID situation also brought re-attention to this particular subject in a very big manner. And I am good to see Mr. Danakishore making the entrepreneurs from the sanitation providers because we tried this experiment in 99 in Kukatpalli, which got the All India Award. So there is a lot of enthusiasm in the people when we guide them, when we support them, so that they will become really sanitary entrepreneurs. Mr. Krishna was very confident when he was narrating our technology is a world class and the technical know-how is absolutely the best. So he was repeatedly talking about the slums and the narrow lanes, but I wanted him to pay attention to the hill areas also of the 3 Himalayan states and also perhaps 8 northeastern states, where perhaps he can open a division for the hill area in his enterprise, not only supporting innovation and also perhaps nurturing the budding entrepreneurs, because there also the requirements are growing, the requirements are emerging, and the needs are coming. Friends, in fact, Shashanka, through a PowerPoint presentation and newspaper clippings, really brought the focus. It is a serious challenge to all of us, to the civilized society, that when we are able to undertake the missions to the Mars and Chandrayaan, why can't we address our own neighborhood issues? This is a very major social, technical, perhaps emotional issue which was not paid attention. There is a capability, there is a enthusiasm, there is interest, there is a legal framework. Perhaps because of various reasons, because of various issues, perhaps adequate attention was not paid. But in the last 5 to 6 years, because of the ODF plus, ODF plus plus, and a massive SBM campaigns, now I think the subject perhaps will be getting more and more attention, which become perhaps a major activity for not only for academicians, but perhaps for the institutes, for the legal providers, and also for the ULBs. I'm saying that there are 361 participants are in the webinar. It is a very big number on this subject. That shows that there is a diversified interest, and 65 people are chatting, sending messages to Chari and the organizers, asking for emails, asking a couple of questions to Krishna, to Shashanka. I'm extremely happy to see a lot of energy, lot of enthusiasm in the participants of the webinar. From Niti Aayog side, we will be extremely happy to associate with this activity. There is already, we have a Atal Innovation Mission is there. They also have a thematic programs being launched here. I will also talk to the director what is being done in the sanitation front. But otherwise, there are Startup India, Stand Up India is there, which will support this sanitation, perhaps entrepreneurs. And also there are various programs are there, Ministries of Rural Development, Urban Development, and Yogita is here. As she is listening carefully, I think also noting some points, so that perhaps in the Finance Corporation, she can change certain schemes, certain requirements, so that one size fits all will not be adequate for India, so that she can have the state-specific schemes and programs. This is a very good thing, but we have to address perhaps the most important, that chalta hai attitude of the intergenerational workers who are doing this for several years, perhaps several generations, because they think that they are adequately skilled to do this job because their fathers, forefathers, and others are doing. And I'm sure that there will be new entrepreneurs coming and joining, doing this work. They also need to perhaps develop the skills. I will definitely talk to the skill development organizations, whether we can develop these skills to non-traditional people also, and also the safety mechanisms. Professor Chari pointed out that we have PPEs, but again, whether the PPE is comfortable, whether it is very natural for him to do the, otherwise he will be treated as an astronaut in his own community, then there will be a little bit of fun and other inconvenience would be there. So it has to be gender-friendly PPE, It has to be very comfortable in terms of ergonomics, in terms of usage. So I think all these things are possible because when the COVID situation came, because of the challenges, we now are making, I think, 5 lakh PPE kits. Uh, I don't know what is the statistics per day, per month, but there is a large number of entrepreneurs came, and also the all other equipment, including the emergency medical equipment, etc. So there is perhaps the only thing is we have to sensitize our needs, our demands, and ULBs perhaps will play very important role. I request ASCII and NFSSM to take it as a very big agenda to sensitize these people about the rescuing every life in every corner of this country. Perhaps that will be a great service. And Niti Aayog will be there with you to support you, to associate with you, and with all the entrepreneurs, with all these things. It will be a big social service which we will be doing while enforcing the judgment and directions of the Supreme Court and also the various acts, various regulatory provisions. I really thank you for inviting me, because my association with Urban is a very long-lasting, but I want to renew this, and I want to compliment each of and every participant and also all the speakers, because everybody will not get the opportunity to share, to speak. I'm sure that you will perhaps share those experiences in an institutional manner, so that this will become a Jan Andolan, a movement, a big campaign among the technocrats, among the policymakers, among the entrepreneurs, so that it will be a big service to the country. Thank you very much, Professor Chari, and all the organizers once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So before you leave, I would like you to inaugurate, launch a small document which brings out the enabling conditions that we need to create for usage of personal protective equipment. This was commissioned by NFSM Alliance and led by Saniverse. So I would like you to, this will be sent to all the registered participants and others. I would like you to sort of launch this. Thank you very much. Just for a photo op, you can show the screen.
But I tell you, I saw this document. It is quite useful. It's quite useful. And the only thing is, since you have written a lot of quotes in the annexes, perhaps the policy makers or the implementers, they should not get unduly worried, because this is only a code specification, and maybe you can give an explanatory note to simplify the purpose and the relevance of those codes, which can be useful for a common sanitary supervisor of a municipality or a sanitary worker of a ULB. But otherwise, it's a good effort. I really compliment you for this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. So now I request Danakishore sir to sort of go back to his presentation to primarily explain what impact that Hyderabad experiment had. You went all the way to the PMO also, sir, to share your experience. So what actually has changed as the incidents come down, as the quality of life of these workers have gone up? What is the business model to sustain this? Is the board paying for all this, or household is paying for this? How does it work? Sir, you need to unmute. Yeah, we may have to unmute. Yeah.
Yes, please. Yeah. I think you can hear me now.
Yes.
So thank you, sir, for those keynote remarks, Rajeshwar Garu. So this innovation, whatever we have done for entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship, it's about 35 to 40,000 rupees these Safai commissioners are getting per month now. And that has been expanded again to entire city of GHMC. We have taken another 120 vehicles now. That's again through Safai Karmacharis and socially deprived sections who are practicing this kind of earlier they used to be manual scavengers. So they have become entrepreneurs now. And what it has triggered is the kind of innovation that is possible in the sector. A lot of innovation is possible. Now, right now, I have one innovation we have done. Our linemen, our sewerage men go to operate the walls. this becomes a kind of a rate limiting factor for efficiency because you are totally dependent on your linemen. We have brought in IoT devices now. We have proved it successfully in one part of the city, that my lineman, I know when my lineman has to open a line and close a line. This is one innovation I brought in. We have also brought in some innovation with some HAL engineers, as I told you. The saver crock, the machine has been used in Netherlands. We brought it and we made it suitable for our conditions. It goes and cleans inside. It opens the blades with the force of water. It cleans up entire the saver line inside. Normally, what happens? Savers gets clogged. That's where manual labor has to get in to use those rods to clean it up, and that's where deaths take place because poisonous gases come out. With this, we're able to clean our huge lines, and maybe next 1.5 years, I need not clean those lines actually. Now, innovation is very small. The degree of innovation you have to make is very small. Increments of innovation is very small. The social impact of it, the impact of the workplace is very huge. Now, my minister, Mr. K. T. Ramarao Garu, he has asked us to ban manual entry into manholes actually. So we banned in the city. So with that, nobody is entering into manholes in the city. In fact, if at all it happens, it's happening now in private citizens. In fact, we talk to district administration also, see that nowhere people should get into this. This is a social innovation one side, and kind of health impact it has on our citizens. Like Mr. Rajeshwar was talking about COVID now. It's known fact that this COVID virus is available in waters, in sewage waters now. So how can you allow your worker get into this? It's a different fact that it's not infecting, they say, but you cannot allow them to get into this. So with this, we're able to avoid that kind of a direct touch with the sewage water. And even in manholes also, we brought in few technologies now. The moment your manhole becomes about to get overflown kind of a stage, that's where it gives a trigger, it directly received in the Metro Water Board. Prototypes have been done. So several technologies are possible. I think we need to look into this.
Yes, sir. So I think this is the right time. Mr. Danikishore, sir, mentioned about robotics as well as very state of the cutting edge innovations in the context of sewer systems. Okay. And Mr. Shashanka mentioned that 70% of urban India is on non-sewer systems. So that's where Mr. Rakesh, now I would like you to bring your solution for which is applicable for non-sewer sort of a context. What sort of innovations you have brought in where such cutting-edge technologies can be brought in to simplify and also to minimize the risk to the workers who are associated with it. Over to you, Mr. Rakesh.
Yeah, good afternoon, Dr. Chari, all the senior members here, co-panelists and the attendees. Yeah, I would definitely like to talk on this. I would request somebody to put up the presentation. Yeah. So I will start with the name Jalodbast. Jalodbast, I come from Kashmir. It has bearing with the name there. Jalodbha was a demon who was living in the lake. He was growing and ultimately started killing the people. It was very difficult because he was living in water, and then the water had to be drained, and with difficulty he could be removed, killed, and the lives saved. So this got into context when I saw people are still dying in the septic tanks, in the sewer lines. So that means this Jalodbhav is still there. A system has to come which has to kill that Jalodbhav. So the name Jalodbast. The machine that you see here, its name, I call it Pride. So a person who is working in the sanitation sector should not feel ashamed of this work, because this is a noble work. No life can exist unless the sanitation is there. It has to be so beautiful, and it has to grab attention. And since I come from a very organized background, I have been in government and I have been in big projects, mega projects. So everything has to be very, very systematic and very properly done. So we have reached this stage. Kindly next slide. Yeah, so essentially we are focusing at mechanizing the fecal sludge handling. No one should be needed to see, smell or touch the fecal sludge. That is the objective. how we achieve it, that it should create independent livelihood, and it should support the coming times decentralized resource management and non-sewer sanitation, because everybody knows now we do not have water enough, we do not have money enough to put all the pipes under our streets. The non-sewer sanitation is the thing coming. So this has to integrate there, and ultimately it will lead to our aim, that is end to manual scavenging. So anywhere manual scavenging, and then the other extended part of manual sanitation, that has to end. Next, please. Yeah, so we started on this journey in 2018, and with the basic engineering design for a new thing, because I come from the hydropower sector, and there I have been handling the sludge, the mud and things. So I saw why this is happening, why this is not getting controlled, because the way we would handle the sludge and sediment there, that thing is not available to this worker. So something has to come in which will be able to handle this sludge. And then the design came, then we rigged it up in a workshop and kept on improving and taking it out into the field, letting the people to work with it, seeing whatever we learn from it and improving. It took us almost 1 year trying to improve this machine. Next, please. Next slide. Yeah, so you can see, then we converted it into a, no, please go back. Yeah, so we converted it into this system, which is handling the sludge, into a vehicle, which can also transport, so that now from the septic tank, inside the septic tank, up to the STP, no one looks at it, no one touches it, no one sees this. And we have got a lot of recognition for this innovation, which I will explain. Please, next one. We are thankful to American Society of Mechanical Engineers. We won the ASME award for 2020 from them, and along with came a little grant, and we started the design. Social Alpha, through Social Alpha, we got Tata Trust. 1 year, I got the fellowship for field trials. Hello Science, which is a combination of Greenforce, Novozymes, they recognized it even in idea stage early 2019. It gave us a little grant and support and global recognition for this. Others have also come in VITM. This was in the innovation fair. It got the headlines of the newspapers. Super 30 of Times Next. Then we are also in the directory of MOHUPA. And we got the Best in Category Award for Excellence in Work for Upliftment of Sanitation Workers by the ISC FICCI Sanitation Awards. So this has been a lot of recognition coming, and we are now making it into a proper product. Please move one slide next. So I will want to show you what actually it is doing. It's a small 10-second clip. Please play the clip. So you can see the action has gone into the septic tank, because for 2 years, 3 years, the sludge was sitting there. It is hardened, and a pipe came out from outside, pulled out the liquid. When the mass kept on collecting, ultimately a human being had to go, because human being is so versatile, a machine cannot replicate him. So it was a challenge. So we tried, that was the starting point, how we have to attend to this problem. And this was the innovation which took place, and this we call Jalod Bust. Please move on. And its application. Please play this clip. This will be the application now. We call this Sanipreneur. This Sanipreneur will go in even into a house without a person touching anything. This, you will sit on the machine and it can extract. So it will reach any point just because of this innovation. This is going to be, please move on. And when we converted into a business model, we found out that an individual. This is going to be a one-man machine. No second person will be needed in this. Based on 1,000 families to 2,000 families, depending on whether only the sanitary sludge or the dry waste combined, you'll be making around 22,000 of net income per month with this machine. So we have worked out the business model of this machine, the implementation of Jalod bus system. Please move on. And we can see from this graph, this is a Google Trends graph on demand for septic tank cleaning. The trend is rising and it is rising exponentially. So more and more people will be needing this service and we have to be ready for that. Please move on. Ultimately, capacity building. That means we have to introduce so many people to this technology. We have to give them training, make this available, hands-on, and hold their hands till they buy it and are independently able to make a livelihood for themselves. The product design is needed, which is under process now after we got support from the ASME ISO. Now that design and then certifications are in process. Thereafter, it will go over to product sales. That's all. I thank you all. That was all I had to say. We all know this is going to be having tremendous social impact, economic impact, and as Shashanka said, unless we attend also to the poverty, which is holding people back, we also attend to the technological innovation, which is needed to change things drastically. Otherwise, we will be, if it was the Stewart system started in 1858, we're still carrying on the same. Something new had to come in, and we hope that it will definitely bring in the change. With that, I thank all, and in coming time, whenever there are question answer session, I am definitely willing to address. Later, I can attend to the emails and all. Thank you, Dr. Chari, for giving me this.
Thank you so much for making a very, very practical presentation. I mean, this is fantastic in my view because it has great relevance for people like us who work on the ground. I see a great relevance for solutions like this. So thank you very much. Now, one major issue as we all discuss, and it's also coming out strongly in the chat box, is these technologies are fine, but eventually we need an interface between the technology and the problem, that is a septic tank or the fecal waste that is contained in these on-site toilet systems. So we need a very strong personal protective equipment, and we need to make sure that we don't really interface with the problem because this particular waste sludge may contain pathogens or it may cause physical impact. So personal protective equipment is super important in this whole sanitation innovation space. Now, Mr. Dhaval has carried out a study on behalf of NFSM Alliance, and he came up with some very interesting facts why people are using these PPEs or not using these PPEs, and what needs to be done in order to make sure that PPEs get mainstreamed in this urban sanitation space. And now I request Mr. Dhaval to briefly talk about salient observations from your analysis. Over to you, Mr. Dhaval.
Thank you, Professor Chari. Yeah. So as Professor Chari has introduced, we at Saniverse conducted a small research project to understand the perception about safety in the sanitation sector. We did a survey of the employers and the employees and the experts, health and safety experts from the other industries, to compare the scenarios between the sanitation sector as well as the other industries who are consuming a lot of PPE in the Indian market. Next slide, please. So during our surveys, we came to know, and these are the 5 points which I want to highlight in my talk. The very first thing which has been highlighted by a few of the speakers, that is awareness about the laws, acts, and their implications. there are several guidelines and several standard operating procedures which have been published, but unfortunately these are guidelines, and there is no strict enforcement of these guidelines. There are a lot of laws and acts pertaining to occupational health and safety, but most of these laws are focusing on the big manufacturing industries or the contract laborers who have a certain number of laborers on a daily basis. When we look into the sanitation sector, these laws are directly not applicable to these small medium enterprises. The only act which is there and which is very relevant is the prohibition of manual scavenging, scavengers, employment of manual scavengers and the Rehabilitation Act, which was introduced in 2013. But when we were doing this survey, we came to know that a lot of people, even the employers, were not aware about the certain implications of flouting this act. So that's one of the main observation. Also, we saw that why nobody knows about this is because not many incidents are reported in the first place. If they are reported, then only the law and the judicial system comes into action. If they remain unreported, then a lot of times these incidences or accidents are not highlighted. Next is lack of scientific occupational hazard and risk analysis. A lot of industries, other industries who consume PP on a larger scale, I have seen that they conduct in-depth scientific analysis of various jobs which needs to be done, and appropriately they select the control measure for the safety. However, in sanitation sector, such a deep study has not been conducted yet, and hence most of the choice or selection of PPE or any other safety equipment is based on the perception about the hazard and risk, and not actually a scientific basis. The third point is safe work practices. If you have ever visited any of the manufacturing plant, you must have seen that there are a lot of signages which highlight that there is certain kind of hazard there. For example, hot surfaces, wet and slippery surfaces, etc. Similar kind of things are not adopted in the small, medium scale businesses. So these sort of work practices need to be inculcated. Fourth, the administrative controls. I'm seeing on the chat box there are a lot of sort of Q&A going on the various types of administrative controls, that is training, upliftment of these manual scavengers and making them into sanipreneurs. So all these things are not observed under administrative controls in most of the cases. So, for example, one of the guidelines for called Emergency Response Sanitation unit, it says that there should be a permit which needs to be taken for any confined space entry into, like, for example, into a septic tank or into a sewer manhole. But then these permits are not taken on a daily basis. So this is lack of administrative control. And lastly, personal protective equipment. And there are a lot of different reasons why people don't use personal protective equipment. One main reason which we came across was the wrong choice of equipment leads to discomfort. And hence, due to the discomfort or lack of dexterity after wearing the PP, the workers, they tend, or they are apprehensive to use PP for a longer time. So in an 8-hour shift, they won't be using it for 8 hours. They will use it for few hours only. Next slide, please. So let me make you understand how the safety perceptions, they change. On the right hand side, you can see a triangle which shows how the different scales of accidents happen. For example, out of all the acts or all the jobs which are done in a certain sector, few of them are classified as unsafe acts, and there can be various reasons for it. Maybe lack of PP, lack of any other control. Because in these unsafe acts, there are few misses, like a small incident happens, not very major, but a near miss of an accident happens. Then there are some minor accidents, then serious accidents, and then some deaths happen. Like Sasanka ji said in the beginning, that every day there is a news that sanitation workers are dying because of suffocation in septic tanks or sewer chambers. And this is because only the deaths are highlighted. Nobody is looking or even gathering data regarding how many near misses are happening or how many minor accidents are happening on a daily basis. So because of a lack of scientific data, now we rely on the perceptions and whatever we hear from these news or from the articles. So now I would like you guys to focus on the left figure, which is an accident weed diagram. So whenever any accident happens, most of the times we see or we say, we look at the surface causes of the accidents. For example, there was a death of 3 sanitation workers while cleaning the septic tank due to suffocation. Now, because of this sentence, everybody thinks, okay, there are poisonous gases because of which the person died. But now, when we go deeper into why the accident happened, we need to focus upon the root cause of the accident. That is why in the first place, the workers were asked to go inside the septic tank. Was there some sort of blockage? If there was a blockage, then was it possible that the blockage could be cleared externally, or there was no inspection chamber before the septic tank that the blockage couldn't be cleaned through? So the root cause of the accident needs to be seen or assessed for developing a right perception about safety. Next slide, please. So there are these 5 hierarchy of controls which come into picture and which most of the industries are relying upon when they develop a program around occupational health and safety. So the diagram clearly explains that there are these 5 controls, and the very first one, the most effective one, is the safe design. I'll simultaneously give an example for you to understand each control. So safe design, if the septic tank is safely designed so that there are no gases which accumulate inside the septic tank, so there needs to be a vent pipe. Then there are inspection chambers before and after the septic tank so that the blockages can be cleared. These things means safe design. So if we safely design the infrastructure, then most of the hazards are eliminated in the first place. Second is engineering controls, and this whole webinar we are focusing about in various engineering controls, how machines can be utilized to avoid contact with the waste directly. So I won't be speaking much about engineering controls here. Safe work practices, I already told that labeling of the spaces, making the workspace safe is one of the key things here. Administrative controls, that is permits, trainings, focusing on capacity building of the workforce in order to assess the hazard, assess the risk, and adapt to it accordingly. And last, which is the most least effective, I would say, is PP. And I say it is least effective because it only protects the person who is wearing it and not the persons around him. So if there is a hazard, then only the person who is wearing the PPE is safe. But maybe his colleague who is standing aside, who is not really doing a job, he's just focusing or he's just observing, but he's not wearing any PPE. He won't be safe from such an accident. So a lot of training and a lot of understanding needs to be given to the workers when it comes to PPE. Next slide, please. So when we were interacting with the other industries, we understood that the management team in these industries, their main focus is to build the system for better management of resources. So when I say building a system, it means that they look into a proper hazard identification risk analysis. They hire an expert who carries out such kind of analysis, who identifies certain engineering controls or improvement in the design aspects of the processes to eliminate the hazard. So more sort of system building is done in the other industries. Next is they strictly follow the hierarchy control. They don't really rely on just the PPs, but they go from the top and then to the bottom. They provide safe work environment. A key difference was training with regards to the job, that is how to perform certain job was explained to them. medical assistance was given. In a lot of industries, they have a on-call doctor system already in place. And there is also insurance, which is provided for the workforce. So those are key differences between other industries and sanitation industry. Then access to right size and job appropriate internationally or a certified PPE, I would say. So through a certain system, they collect the data regarding the sizes and the appropriate PPEs, and then they order these PPEs for the workforce. And lastly, after doing all these things, then they look upon enforcing the SOPs and wearing of PPE. And even after all these things, if some accident happens, then insurance is there to take care of the worker. So that's how the other industries are looking into or managing the safety at the workplace. Next slide.
Thank you, Mr. Dhaval. I think, any last point quickly?
Yes, can you go to the next slide, please? So common challenges across all the industries was comfort and dexterity, but then the PPE, there is no such PPE available in the market which provides safety and comfort equally. So some level of discomfort will be provided, but then through appropriate training, this can be addressed. And gender inclusivity. It has already been highlighted that gender-centric PPE is not available, especially the body protection. And hence you see a lot of female workers are not wearing appropriate attire for the job. But I was very happily surprised to see that in Odisha, in Behrampur Municipal Corporation, the female workers had adopted to the existing PPE by wearing a full sleeve shirt and a full length pant to do the job. So that was a quite happy moment for me. Next slide. Yeah, recommendations, three straightforward recommendations. One is capitalizing the GEM portal. So on the GEM portal, from where most of the ULBs are procuring the PPE, the safety equipment for sanitation workers can be categorized separately. The PPE needs to be classified as with regards to standards and specifications, because this leads to a lot of variance in the cost and effectiveness of the PPE. Rules for OHS, occupational health and safety, in FSM or in sanitation needs to be brought into practice, and improving the regulatory framework. Since less of monitoring and enforcement is happening, a lot of incidents and accidents go unreported, and hence there should be a robust enforcement methodology. And last but not the least, taking feedback from the ground workers. So if we improve this feedback mechanism, then the PPE manufacturers can also adopt their PPEs and manufacture better PPEs for the certain sector. So improving this framework is important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dhaval. Thank you very much. I think it's a very, very useful information and insight about the safety as well as the personal protective equipment available in the market. So the key message from Mr. Dhaval is that one, PPE is not the panacea to all the safety problems. We need a hierarchy of control systems like it's followed in other hazardous industries. But PPE is very important as a line of defense. Unfortunately, the standardization of PPE is also missing in the sanitation space. So his recommendation is that we need to bring in more standardization, and then these can be made available on the GEM portal of Government of India so that certain amount of quality assurance is mentioned. Gender sensitivity in PPE is also one of the major concerns, and he highlighted that also. I think there's a great deal of work needs to be done in this space. So now I invite, we are running behind schedule, but it's a very important at this point in time to have to discuss Ms. Swaroop to talk about the issue of financing. You know, one of the major concerns when we talk about mechanization, innovations, and social enterprise and sanitation, ma'am, is that there is no money available. But at the same time, when we look at the schemes, everybody talks about money, plenty of money available. So can you please explain to us the role of NSKFDC? How do we make it these loans easily accessible to sanitation workers and particularly women enterprise that are coming up in large numbers? Over to you, ma'am.
Right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chari, very much. Now, today's webinar on the safety and mechanization and urban sanitation innovations and opportunity by NFSM is a very welcome decision. And I'm very glad to be participating here and voicing my opinion. I would be talking on two particular aspects. One is my role as a representative for the social sector for the Government of India, where I'm economic advisor, and I'm looking after the scheme called the SRBIS, because many panelists today and speakers today talked about the manual scavenging scenario and the hazardous cleaning scenario in India and the sewer deaths which are happening in the country. So I have two roles in this ministry, where I first, as economic advisor, I look up this hazardous cleaning issue, which is very topical today, as you've already talked about, that how so many people are going inside the sewer and septic tanks for the cleaning without wearing protective gear and are losing their lives. It's a very emotional issue for the Government of India, and it is a top priority for our Prime Minister's office also, that this issue must be tackled absolutely. And my other role is as a managing director for the National Safai Karamcharis Finance Development Corporation, where I look after the schemes for which provide concessional loans to the Safai Karamcharis and waste pickers for promoting entrepreneurial activity for them. We also undertake skilling programs for them. So that is my other role, which is totally divorced from the first. But however, I'd like to also talk about, before I go to my role in NSKFDC, I would like to talk about my hazardous cleaning and manual scavenging scenario in the country. Now, I would like to just once again say that manual scavenging today does not exist in the country. Manual scavenging is somebody who is engaged in an occupation. It is not a direct, just a one-time contact with human excreta and you are trying to claim yourself to be a manual scavenger. A manual scavenger is a person who has been engaged in this activity of cleaning insanitary latrines for in an occupation base where he is so oppressed and so deprived that he has no other means of livelihood and he has to undertake this demenial occupation. Now comes the other part, which is called as hazardous cleaning. Now, which we have been talking about today. What is hazardous cleaning? Hazardous cleaning is allowed under, it is also a banned activity. However, it is allowed under exceptional circumstances under the MS Act 2013. Now, we have two acts under this. One is the MS Act, which was actually propounded in 2007. And the next amendment came to it in 2013. The 2013 obviously Act, it enlarged the ambit of the earlier Act, trying to incorporate elements of rehabilitation also for these identified manual scavengers. So the Government of India did a survey and it tried to identify all these manual scavengers in the country and try to rehabilitate in the programs which it had enunciated under this particular scheme. So hazardous cleaning is what is happening today. People are going inside the sewer septic tanks without the protective gear and are losing their precious lives. So our Safai Karamcharis bhais are going and losing their lives. This is a topical issue. Hazardous cleaning, as I say, is also a banned activity, but it has to be done under only exceptional circumstances. And that exceptional circumstance is one where it is allowed by the CEO of the municipality, the Gram Panchayat, who has to record in writing as to the reasons why he allowed this specific activity to be undertaken. Otherwise, it has very strong prohibitory provisions under the Indian Penal Code, where there is imprisonment up to 7 years. So our main issue is that these people should not lose their lives, and therefore the Government of India has taken a very strong opinion and has tried to do try to tackle the problem in a three-pronged strategy. One is we have to have infrastructural problems which have to be addressed, and we have to have stronger provisions in the form of amendment of the Act that this is a kind of a stop. People are afraid to engage these persons. Now, as earlier also some panelists had already said that 40% of India is unsewered, which means there are issues of septic tanks cleaning, sewer systems which are not connected to the main trunk line. So all these issues have to also be simultaneously addressed, apart from the social angle of not allowing people. About a month or two back, I on my WhatsApp videos had seen one video which was made by Tata Social Sciences Institute, where they had said that once sewer septic tank Safai Karamchari worker goes inside the sewer septic tank wearing only a chaddi, and his son is eulogizing it in the school saying, "Mera baap desh chana chaya." Now, this is the kind of attitude which we need to address. Now, this is a bad activity. There is no glorification in somebody going unprotected without protective gear inside the sewer septic tank. I mean, this is what I'm saying. The problem is so manifold. At one level, we have low awareness among people who don't understand the provisions of the Act. The Act is very teethful. It already says that there is no one who can go inside, and there is very strict 5 years of rigorous imprisonment and a fine of 50,000 for the first offense, and subsequent monetary fines go higher. and it's a non-bailable offense in under the IPC. Now, when we have started releasing the problems, we are seeing to it that every case in this country where there is a death is addressed properly. The MS Act, the the PO Act, and the SC/ST Act are implemented, and there is also a Supreme Court judgment of 2014 of Safai Karamchari Andolan versus the Government of India, where it has been clearly enunciated that every such death in the country must be identified, and the state governments must pay a compensation of 10 lakhs each to the deceased family. Now, important thing is that contractual workers are hired. People who are having septic tanks who are not covered by the ambit of the municipalities, they engage these workers from the labor market unknowingly and not into the knowledge of the municipality CEO. Whereas even these areas are unsewered, unseptic tanks and unauthorized colonies, it is still under the ambit of the municipality. They are bound by law to even clean them. So now the second part comes that the Government of India is trying to promote mechanization in the country. And this is one of the top agendas. In fact, we have formulated a new program just called the National Action Plan for Mechanized Sanitation Ecosystem. It's called Namaste. It's also loaded on the website for the Ministry of Social Justice and also the NSKFDC who want to read it. The Government of India is making strong changes in the Act to make it even more teethful. It is also trying to establish a sanitation authority and trying to enlist the health, what's called as the PSSOs, and having a sanitation response unit in every district of the country to address the problems of septic tank cleaning. That is, suppose you have the septic tank clean and your tank is choking. What is that you should do? So we'll have an authority in every district whom you can have. We'll have a helpline number 24/7, just like the fire services in the country, where a uniform number is available to everybody. So you can just log in there and put in a request. So these are some of the steps which the Government of India is addressing and trying to do, and it is at a very nascent stage. We are still working towards it. Now I'll come back to my presentation on the NSKFDC and its financial roles in trying to help. So you'll have to go back to the first slide, please. So this is a scheme called, just go back to the previous slide, please, where you start with SUI. Yeah, right. So these are some of the loan schemes which we have in National Safai Karamchari Finance Corporation. Actually, we have three corporations in the Ministry of Social Justice. The Safai Karamchari Corporation addresses the problems of the target group of Safai Karamcharis, their dependents, and the waste pickers. They are also the SC community. So they're also covered under the National Safai Karamcharis, the other corporation, SC corporation, but we also target this particular group. Now, we have launched a new scheme called the Swachhata Udyami Yojana. It's a new scheme which is launched by our corporation. And as you see that the main objective of this particular scheme is to provide financial assistance for procurement of sanitation related equipments and vehicles for promotion of mechanized cleaning in this country. And what are the two broad guidelines of the scheme? Under the one scheme that we have, we are giving loans up to 50 lakhs for mechanized cleaning to these either through our channelizing agencies or directly also we are financing. And here the left-hand side block will show you what we are doing for our urban local bodies. And here the rate of interest that we charge is only 4%. And we are also giving a 1% rebate for timely repayment, and the loan is for a duration of 10 years. Now, these loans are directly given to ULBs. Now, earlier we were not giving loans to ULBs directly. We were only giving to Safai Karamcharis and their self-help groups. Now we have started financing the ULBs just because many of our bigger costing equipment like 50 lakhs were not taken by these small self-help groups and Safai Karamcharis. So how do we procure a loan with our corporation? So we generally don't give direct loans. As I said, we only give loans to our state channels agents. So we have state partners. So as of now, the National Safai Karamchari has entered into a MOU with 3 major nationalized banks in the country, as well as we have 33 RRBs on board with whom we have a MOU. And we also have, 33 channelizing agencies and 25 RRBs with whom we have a MOU. So we receive proposals through these channelizing agencies with us and the beneficiaries at the level. And then we do a refinancing to these either banks or to the state channelizing agencies that we have. So under the first scheme or the first step of this particular scheme, we are targeting these states which are colored as a first step today in this 2020-21. They are Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, West Bengal, and Kerala. For the main reason that most of our identified Safai Karamcharis and manual scavengers under the survey which we did in 2018-19 were identified in these major states of the country. So we are trying to target that particular segment where these manual scavengers have been identified and Safai Karamcharis to whom we can extend this particular loan. Next, please. Now, how do we, what is our vision for this Swachhata Udyami Yojana? Now, we intended to target about 2,000 equipment purchase for the entire country in the first year of 2020-21. And we are trying to take those particular equipments which are low cost, which are smaller machines, because we found that most of our Safai Karamcharis who are losing their lives are doing so in septic tanks cleaning, which are there in narrow ghettos and colonies of India. So we were looking for equipment which would go inside these small lanes. And I had also meeting with Kamavita people. That's why he's remembering this. That we are offering a subsidy of, the government of India is offering a subsidy of 50% on the loans up to 5 lakh. That is, I think, one of the highest subsidies in any government of India scheme till date. So from this, you can understand how committed the government of India is. And and beyond that, if the equipment costs beyond that, then we are giving 25% subsidy, and the rest of the loan amount, we are charging a 4% simple interest rate of interest. Next, please. We've also worked out 2-3 economic models where we found that on a loan of 5 lakhs, if it is given to any Safai Karamchari or a self-help group, he can, when we take a 10-year, this is a 10-year repayment period. So we found that if he cleans about 2.5 tanks per machine per day, then he gets about a monthly income of 24,576 after taking into account all his EMI payments and his costing and fuel and driver and costing and all that. So it is a very workable economic model, and more so when the government of India are offering such high subsidy on the purchase of such equipment. Next, please. Another model has been worked out with us, which is 7 lakh costing machine. And here we find that the profitability works out to be about 22,573. So in both these models, we find that that these models are very economically viable, and that's why we're pushing it forward. And we are engaging some agencies to help us, first of all, identify the equipment that they need. Second stage is to help these targeted group beneficiaries whose list we already have, whom we want to, and we've already spoken to many of these entrepreneurs who are on Safai Karamcharis, who want to take up this equipment and help promote entrepreneurial activity. Next, please. This is our third model, that if the machine costs 10 lakhs, then what is the profitability? So, next, please. So these profitability models, you can do the next slide, please. Next, please. Yeah, so these profitability models show us that it's a very workable economic model that we're working on. So we have some schemes for the women entrepreneurs also. Yeah. We have 2 particular schemes from women. It's called the Mahila Samriddhi Yojana and the Mahila Adhikarati Yojana. It's under microfinancing schemes, where we are providing loans up to 1 lakh for very small entrepreneurial activities for these deprived groups and marginalized groups. And we are giving a rebate of 0.5% also for educational loans for women entrepreneurs in particular. So we are trying to promote women entrepreneurs also in this field of sanitation. We want them to avail of this particular loan, and these loans may not be essentially only for SUY. For SUY, the loan is irrespective of gender. For the women entrepreneurs, for smaller entrepreneurial activity, we are doing these 2 particular schemes where the rates of interest are very, very marginal. 4% is what we are charging. Next, please. Yeah, thank you. That's all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I mean, this is a great story and great news for mechanization of the sanitation sector and creating social enterprises, particularly focusing on the women. One question that is coming often in the chat is, this information is great, these schemes are good, but this information is not reaching the right audience, is one of the major concerns. So are there any efforts made through your partners, state partners, or even the district partners? If
yes, I would like to highlight here. We are organizing what's called a half-day sensitization campaign in all the municipalities across India. It's a half-day sensitization campaign where we invite stakeholders like the Safai Karamcharis, the sanitation workers, the municipal officers, the municipal workers, the workers of the Gram Panchayats, the CEO of the Gram Panchayat, the CEO of the municipality, so municipal officer, and even the Mahapur or the mayor of the particular district. We are also asking the district magistrate to send his representatives. So there is a good gathering of people from all strata of society. One is the sanitation workers, so that they also know the rights. Then we have small films and films in which we try to show this problem of hazardous cleaning. that people should not go inside unprotected with unprotected gear. Now, what protective gear they should wear is also listed on the website of Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, where they have loaded in November 2018, if I remember rightly, the standard operating procedures for undertaking hazardous cleaning. What is that you should do if anybody has to go inside that? First of all, you need a written permission from the municipality. You cannot just allow anybody to go inside that without protective gear. You must have oxygen tanks in place. You must have an ambulance in place. See, these has already been formulated not only in the Act, but in the MS rules. They have been loaded on the website of the Ministry of Social Justice. They're on the website of the National Safai Karmcharis Corporation. I have also written to all the municipalities informing them. So we are doing the sensitization campaign. So we're also now we're also having some EOI with for hand-holding agencies, who can come forward and help us in not only skilling these people to handle this equipment and helping them in the rehabilitation program, but also to reach out to these people. That here is what the government of India is doing.
So, ma'am, I think this is great story. As NFSSM Alliance, which is a huge network of partners committed to sanitation, we would like to work with you. Take these messages all the way to different states and to cities and even in rural areas. So thank you very much. We will come back to you. We will come back to you on this. Thank you, ma'am. Now, Ravi Kumar Garu, you heard the story completely, both from financing point of view and the problems on the ground. And you're playing a very decisive role in bridging the knowledge gap that exists between these Safai Karamcharis and the schemes and converting them to social enterprises. Actually, you have done this experiment in Hyderabad. Now you're doing this experiment in Delhi and many parts of the country where you are facilitating various stakeholders and helping the sanitation sector and individuals to become safe, and also their well-being is also assured. So what is the role of Dicky in all this and how you are experimenting in Delhi? If you can just focus on Delhi experience, that will be very useful. Can you unmute yourself or do you need any help? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, good evening, everybody, Professor Chari and the participants. And Dicky is Dalit Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which is working for the promotion of entrepreneurship among the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities in the country. Now it's a nationwide chamber, and we have 29 chapters across various states and also 7 international chapters. So in the process of developing the entrepreneurship among SC/ST communities, we have come across one opportunity in Hyderabad, thanks to Mr. Dana Kishore, who is the Managing Director of Hyderabad Metro Water Supply and Sewerage Board. So when we, in the interaction with him, he said he is ready to support to develop Safai Karmacharis to be converted as a contractors, because right from beginning everybody knows that since ages all the waste management or sewerage management or any sort of cleaning in the society is being done by a particular community. So these people are remain to be workers throughout their generations. Even now, there is a lot of mechanization is taking place and a lot of changes are occurring, but these results are not reaching the Safai Karmacharis who are engaged in this profession. So in that process, when we approached the Danakishore ji, he had connected us to Mr. K.T. Ramarao and he discussed with the Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao, and they have decided to support the to develop Safai Karmacharis as a contractors. So in that way, there were some challenges we were facing because the department was apprehensive about whether these people can invest 19 lakhs rupees for purchase of the machine. Number two, whether they have the managerial capacity to manage the contract. And number three, their um, sustainable in the business. So these were the challenges they were asking. Then we said as a Dicky, we will mentor them, we'll identify the potential candidates from them, and we will become as a mentors to them, and we have we'll arrange the finance through Stand Up India scheme, like that. Whatever the challenges, so they were apprehensive, and we said we will address it. Then accordingly we have done, and with great efforts of all of us, including the SBI, which has financed, and the HMWS and Government of Telangana, we could able to create around 35 entrepreneurs for 69 missions. And seeing the success of this has brought into the notice of the Honorable Prime Minister's office, and the Prime Minister office has invited Mr. Danakishore for the presentation, and there everybody who participated in the presentation were impressed about the model, and they wanted to replicate the same model across the country. And in the process, the Delhi Jail Board officials were also present in that, and the Delhi Jail Board officials contacted us, and they wanted us to have the presentation on the model, and we have given the presentation, and the presentation, Honorable CM Kejriwal liked the present model, and he approved the to proceed further. Accordingly, we have identified around 200 Safai Karmacharis in the Delhi jurisdiction, and out of that, around 9 people are deceased families. That means from whose family either husband or the father has died in the process of the cleaning, severe death. So since 1.5 years we are doing there, and everybody is earning not less than 40,000 rupees per month. And we're also proud to say that all these 330 people, including the Hyderabad, we have 130 total, initially 69, and subsequently they are given another opportunity. So all put together around 330 people. So these 330 people have become the taxpayers of this country. So this is the great socio-economic model which the Dickey has developed, and those people who are living on the platform of Delhi, they didn't had any Pakka house, they didn't had any Aadhaar card, PAN card, but for such people also, the Dickies mentored them to become the entrepreneur, and today they are residing they have shifted to rental houses, and everybody has saved up to more than 5 lakhs in a year. Now they are planning to purchase a flat, something like that. So this is the change is being brought because of this project. So what we wanted is that we wanted this to be implemented everywhere, because everywhere the first challenge we get, because the government cannot hire anybody without a formal contract. And when you invite a contract, and there will be a pre-qualification, and that pre-qualification will prevent the Safai Karmacharis to participate in the tender. So we will request all the local bodies and the governments, local state governments, to relax these conditions in case if the Safai Karmachari wants to participate in the tender, there must not be any pre-qualification. Whatever the prerequisites are there for the tender shall be exempted for the Safai Karmacharis who wanted to become a contractor. Second thing, the financial part, thanks to SBI, we have which has submitted, which has financed up to 90%, which is very exclusively a project they have designed for this purpose. And Madam Madam Yogita Sarup is here, and I request Madam also, because they have finance model of through financing through the channel agency. So these channel agencies, they are not much interested to take money from NSKFDC and in return give it to the beneficiaries. Some governments are not interested because of the political differentiation between the government of India and the state governments, and also most of the urban local authorities also officers doesn't want to take any extra initiatives to develop these people. So for that reason, my suggestion would be, so if the nowadays the financial institutions are coming forward, But what we wanted is that there must be a fixed capital subsidy shall be given to the directly to the beneficiaries from the NSKFDC, and also you can they can do the interest subvention. Suppose if the bank financer is coming financing the project with 12%, the 9% interest may be subvention may be given from the NSKFDC, because this is a very big nation, and every part has got a different sociological and economic and political conditions. So in these circumstances, if the one Safai Karmachari at a remote area wanted to become an entrepreneur, all the systems is not ready to support them. So in that case, if the policy is brought that some tender realizations are given to them, and the banks are ready to fund them under Mudra or Stand Up India or this thing, and this support of NSKFDC by way of the capital investment subsidy and by way of interest subvention will make them to sustain in the business, and they can compete with others, and they can file a tender, even in a general tender they can participate, and they can quote less, and that will be the win-win situation for the local body as well, and also they can withstand the competition by the other competitors. So these are the
Yes, sir.
initiatives
Thank you.
which I would suggest, and I'm special thanks to Mr. Danakishore, Mr. K.T. Ramarao, and our CM, Mr. KCR, for taking the pilot project in Hyderabad, which has made a successful model and got repeated in Delhi. And now we are working with Rajasthan government also. Now they are planning to release the tender. And one great initiative taken by the Delhi government is that the first time in Indian history, the tender was called on the basis of the provision of Manual Scavenging Act 2013. So for that, many contractors have gone to the court. They have gone to Delhi High Court, and the High Court has appreciated the initiative of the Delhi government, Delhi Jail Board, and applauded. They also commented that in entire country this same system must be followed, because in the tender they clearly mentioned whoever is tender is participating, the first priority is given for the deceased families of the Safai Karmacharis, and the second priority is given to the children of the existing Safai Karmacharis who are already working at various levels, and the third preference will be given to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe people, and the fourth preference will be given to the women participants. So this is the historical tender which have been brought and which was also challenged by the big contractors, and subsequently the court has upheld the Delhi Jail Board's initiatives. So if this can be shared to various urban authorities, then I think definitely this will benefit, because in the process of mechanization, the opportunity, business opportunity, what is being created also should go to the Safai Karmacharis, so that apart from their safety, their financial position also will improve. And another thing, what we have observed in our experience, because as aggregator company we have formed, and through aggregator company we are supporting all these contractors to execute the work in a very professional way. And in the process, we have recruited some of the people who are working on this. And there is a resistance from the employees also to wear the safety gadgets. Though we provide them, they feel that they are under pressure to wear that, because they don't understand the importance of it, because they don't value their life itself. So that for that we are taking lot of innovative methods to make them to get used to work by wearing the safety equipment. And another thing, most of the Samay Karmacharis, 99.99%, the all the people while executing the work, they consume the cheap liquor. This is the biggest hazard. Another, apart from the hazards of the sewerage hazard, the social hazard, where they drink a lot of cheap liquor, which will spoil their health. So as per our analysis, the number of widows are more in the families of Safai Karmacharis, because their husbands or their mother, father are dying at the average age of 35 to 40 years. So this because of the hazardous work what they are doing and the hazardous drink what they are consuming. So for that, as an aggregator company, we are trying our level best to see that they stop the drinking. For them, for that we are incentivizing them. We are taking regular trainings, and we are trying to divert their lifestyle. Another thing, for using the gadgets, we are giving the extra payment. Whoever is using in a proper way, we are giving the some incentives for using the gadgets in a proper way. And if you see the both the cities experiments of Hyderabad and Delhi, and after introduction of this models, there are no severe deaths at all, because the Delhi was very famous for the severe deaths. But now the severe deaths are not there for the past 1.5 years, and also whatever deaths they are taking place is only in the privately employed people. That is to clean the septic tanks in the five-star hotels and in the apartment complexes, and also in the individual houses. So there they are engaging the totally inexperienced persons, and by which they don't know how to enter into the septic tank. Also, they don't know how to open the septic tank cover. Also, they are just like that doing. And most of the places, even the owners have died, because the owners were standing besides the employee, and they also consumed that poisonous gas. So for that, we need to take the regulation across the country, that even if if you have your own house and you want to clean your own septic tank, you need to go through a proper channel. That is, the local body permission must be given. It should be monitored, and if anybody does that, even the owner must be punished for that. Another thing, what we have seen from the five-star hotels and the apartment complexes. So this is also, though they are very much educated and though they are financially sound, but when it comes to the cleaning of the septic tank, when it comes to the cleaning of the sewerage system, they go to the traditional old practices. So
Ravi Kumar Garu, just one observation. You know, the way you as Dicky has professionalized the sector, facilitating partnerships between the government as well as the Safai Karamcharis, aggregating them, mentoring them and training them. I think we need a similar approach for non-sewer areas also. Right now, your focus has been in Hyderabad and Delhi. This predominantly is in the sewer areas. I think a similar approach of business models have to be created in the non-sewer areas also. So I think there is a great deal of service that is can be done in these areas also.
Yeah, that we are doing, because if you take, for instance, in Delhi, keeping in view of the Delhi lanes, we have developed a tailor-made machine with the help of the Kamavida. Thanks to Mr. Krishna, who has taken a lot of interest to produce that machine, and that is supposed to be the best machine so far in the country. And also, we will be surprised to know that there are manholes in the houses of the people who are living. Inside the house, there will be a manual. That's government manual is situated inside the house, in the Delhi. So similarly, for septic tanks also, their location and the that will be overflowing. Nobody bothers and all that. So as you say, we are working out on various options for regularizing the cleaning of septic tank, and also for giving the sewerage cleaning and the waste management works to these people.
Thank you.
On different models we are working. So now that we are also experienced and we have studied, and because we have improved the model from Hyderabad to Delhi, and from Delhi to now Jaipur, we are improving further. So like that, we are coming out.
So I think the message is we need to take similar models to cities and towns where there is no sewer system, which is little more. and create a similar business models in the non-sewer towns and cities where there is absolutely disorganized sector. We need to organize
Yes.
this. Thank you very much, sir. We will come back to you. Now, I'm very conscious of the time. We have exceeded quite a bit of as per the schedule. Now I request Ms. Sharma, Debisha Sharma, to speak about the CTD's experience in small innovations in small cities. Because we discussed about Delhi, Hyderabad, but what happens in small cities are often really very different. What is CTD doing in the small cities where mechanization is super important?
Hello.
Yeah.
Am I audible?
Sharma, yeah, you're audible. Can you keep it a little? I would request
Hello.
everybody to mute. Yeah, over to you.
Thank you, Professor Chari. And it was pleasure listening to all the speakers, and very insightful work has been projected here. I mean, my video is currently not working very well, so that's why I'm not switching on my video. It's like getting disturbed. So I'll just quickly take you through what has been our experience in testing Gulper. So, okay. So as all our previous speakers have pointed out, that we face two major challenges. One is that of the narrow lanes, and the other one is that of thick sludge. And together, both this situation create this kind of a ecosystem in which manual scavenging often happens. Our idea was that, can we find a solution that helps manual scavengers to, like, get a low cost effective equipment which helps them to transition into a more safer and cost effective efficient method of emptying pits and septic tanks. So while looking for the various solutions, yeah, we found this there are different solutions that exist in around the world. There's something called split screw augers, something called the gulper system, something called the diaphragm system, and something called as the portable pump, and many other such systems. So the first three of these are actually human powered, in which there are equipments, but that they do not require any kind of external power input, and no electricity, no diesel, nothing. So it is essentially entirely something that a person has to use their muscle power to operate them. Most of them are in the form of a piston or something like a hand pump or a diaphragm pump. The other one is the portable pumps, but we thought that let us see if something like a system that works without external power and energy input can work in the Indian context. So that was our reason of wanting to try and test out the Gulper system. Also, a Gulper system is something that has been quite popular around African context, especially in Uganda and Tanzania. So we thought of giving it a go ahead. So what is a Gulper? So Gulper is a simple lift mechanism. It is something like, there are two types of Gulper. One is for soft sludge that works like a cycle pump. It has a piston kind of a system. While something called for Gulper 2 or the rammer that works for thick sludge. It works exactly like a hand pump, the traditional like the hand pump that we have in houses. So this is the one we actually had got in from Uganda, and we tried to see if it works in our context. So I'll just show a 10-second video on how Gulper works in the African context. So as you can see, this seems like pretty simple. A person just rams it like we ram a hand pump, and the sludge is emptied out and put into a barrel. So this looks fairly simple. So we thought, okay, let's try and see what happens when we do the same thing in India. So this is a video of one of our field trials. So not a drop of sludge yet. So as we can see, like this whole action of ramming and trying to empty out sludge, it was done for over half an hour. We tried, like different people tried to do that. Not a single drop of sludge came out of the pit. So why is this difference in our experiences in African context and in India? One is that we find a lot of solid waste being making way to our containment systems. So we feel that until and unless desludging equipment is able to handle the solid waste, some the equipment won't work for India, because we need something that actually is able to handle the solid waste into the containments. The second thing is, it is really a time consuming and a tedious process. I mean, it can take, even with the existing setup in which the gulper is, it can take up to 3 hours to empty just 1,000 liters of sludge. And the typical containment can be something like ranges around 3 cubic meters to as big as 12 cubic meters, and sometimes even more. So it is a very tedious and time consuming process if we use something like gulper to empty containments in India. And the third one is, it requires a lot of intense human effort. You need at least 3 to 4 people to set up the system, somebody to hold the system in place, somebody to do the ramming action, and somebody to actually hold the bucket or the space in which the emptied contents will be put into. So it is, I mean, given all this circumstances, we just feel that gulper and something that is manually driven equipments, which may be safe, gulper is quite safe, but it may not be very effective and efficient in the kind of livelihood context, kind of business operation we are talking about in India. So however, alternatives exist. Some of the alternatives have been already discussed by the speakers. So there are some other alternatives we just wanted to throw some light on. One is something called a split cesspool cleaning system. It is used in the Agartala Municipal Corporation in Tripura, where they have something so Agartala is a city that has really a lot of narrow lanes. So they needed, and lanes are like very, very tiny little lanes. So what they do, they have this 2-truck system in which one truck has this generator comes suction machine, which goes into next to the house and has a long pipe that is put into the pits and the septic tanks, while the main vehicle, which is again a small vehicle mounted on a tempo, will be waiting in the main road. So that's how they are, the municipality is trying to do, is actually having these vehicles, and they have been running it since, as far as I know, since around 2015-16, they have been doing this. The second one is the double booster pump, something similar, but in this one, instead of having like 2 separate vehicles, one having the suction machine and one having the tank, they are having one single truck, but have a booster pump that goes onto the desludging side, and while the truck is still parked in the main road, while the pump actually goes into the household and does the pumping. So you essentially have 2 pumps. One is next to the containments, and the other one is in the truck itself. And the third one is what we typically call a jugaad or a frugal innovation. So this is something we found is being used by very small scale private cesspool operators around Bangalore. So we found that these are actually erstwhile manual scavengers who got hold of some money and then bought a second-hand Tata AS, got a syntax tank, got a pump. And they started kind of with their own resources, however meager, they tried to make their jobs more efficient and safer, so that with their own it's kind of self-supported, they could transition from being a manual scavenger to doing something much more safer. I will end my presentation with a small 1-minute video of the double booster pump that is being piloted by Blue Water Company in the Leh municipality. So yeah, I mean,
Thank you,
as we can
Debisha.
see, this is something that requires some innovation, some coordination between the people involved, and a job that can access very inaccessible area in a very, very safe manner. So I would like to end my presentation that we'd be very happy to collaborate on more such ideas. And yeah, you can get more information on our website. Thank you.
Thank you, Debisha. You know, this is audience. We may think that, you know, these are small, low cost, frugal innovation may not be relevant for India, but you know, the complexity of our, you know, urban as well as rural systems are so different that we need such innovations. These innovations have come because of the necessity, and Debisha clearly articulated why these innovations have been thought through. I think CDD is doing a fantastic job for bringing such innovations. For example, you saw in Leh, the hose pipe could go all the way to 150 meters, and these are inaccessible in any set of imagination. And the terrain is also very complex. So this double booster system actually won the national award. In fact, has done a fantastic job in actually solving the problem in certain complex geographies. We need such innovations. We need such different solutions, because nothing is uniform in our country, and it's not a single technology cannot solve all the problem. I think that's the emphasis that Debisha is trying to communicate. I think, thank you very much. Agartala is an interesting example. Dr. Rajesh Rao is from Agartala. He comes from the Tripura cadre of Agartala. So you would have been very appreciative of the effort that you are making in Agartala. Thank you very much, Debisha. Parnasha, are there any burning questions? Because we have exceeded by, you know, by almost 45 minutes. Are there any important questions that we need to share with Mr. Ravi Kumar or Yogita ma'am? They are still on the panel discussion. They are available on this. Even Mr. Dhaval is there, Mr. Rakesh is there. Are there any questions which are very critical that are not addressed earlier?
No, I think Professor Chari, you also summed it up very well in terms of also like the innovative solutions. There were a couple of questions around how we can hold the ULBs a little more accountable when it actually comes to, you know, these regulations and making sure that this is happening at the state level, right? So if there's something that anybody wants to share just as a closing, etc. Otherwise, I think we've covered, and I think we've gotten a very good response even on the chat where everyone has responded to all of these.
I would have loved to you know, respond to that question about making ULBs accountable, but I would like Mr. Ravi Kumar to speak about it. How do you make ULBs accountable?
Sir, we need to understand the functioning of the ULBs, because the ULB is monitored not only by the administration, it is monitored by the political system. So each and every ULB has got the political involvement is too much. So this has to be dealt in a proper way, because there must be a national policy and there must be a state policy. So
okay,
that
I will Ravi Kumar Garu, I got a clue from your answer. Yogita ma'am, you are from the Ministry of Social Justice. The question that is in front of us is, how do you make not just the district administration, but the municipality and the municipal commissioner and the mayor of the city accountable for such actions? Like, for example, making a permit system, entering into confined space entry, which Mr. Dhaval mentioned. How do you make these systems activate at the ULB level? You need to unmute.
Yeah, I was doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's okay. Yeah. See, one has to understand whose onus it is that people are losing their lives. Now, in most of the cases that I have seen till date, from 93 onwards, there are 942 deaths in this country in total. Now, most of these deaths did not occur in areas which were manned or which were looked after by the ULBs. Many of them were unauthorized colonies, ghettos, right? So the issue remains that how we can make a ULBs more responsive. The issue is not that. The issue is also much broader than that. How we can make each individual in this country more responsive. How we can make each septic tank owner in this country who was considered as unauthorized. How we can make each unauthorized colony operator in this country responsive. It's very easy to implicate and say that CEO of the municipality didn't do, but I am seeing this. What is happening? And there are people who are engaging them without even the CEO knowing. In a city of these metros with a population of 10 million and above, which we have now mushrooming all of this country. Now, how can any the laws are there? They're quite punitive. They are quite strong. They have the teeth in them. Yeah, and the important where the government is lacking is that okay, we are not able to make everybody aware of it. We are having these websites, we are having these portals, we are having these IEC campaigns. Now, fine, but how many of these people are in our country at this level who are living in ghettos and slums and colonies and authorized institutions are able to access that portal and see it? That here is what the government of India empowers you. Here is what you have to do. But what is happening in Gurgaon? Where did the major death place? 7 people died in Gurgaon, one of the highly mechanized municipalities in this country. And where did this death occur? In the DLF basement. Now people are making huge bungalows and constructing it in gross violation of building laws. So it is for us to be introspective and understand that first we each one of us obey the law. If these septic tanks and these unauthorized basement septic tanks were not constructed in narrow thing, and I saw it, it was 3 floors below the basement. And it had a narrow staircase to reach 3 floors down the basement. One person went in to clean it. It was as deep as 7 feet. Now, a septic tank has to be at the ground. It has to be in an exposed area where the gases can emanate and expose and sort of escape in the environment. It cannot be inside the basement.
So
now, there is a sanitation inspector, 1 or 4, 5 sanitation. How can they police this country and this particular municipality or this particular area? It is for each individual for us to understand that if we construct things properly in the right perspective, and if you have in us the consciousness that this septic tank needs to be cleaned periodically, you don't clean your septic tanks for 7 years. And then you ask, because you don't want to spend any money. Everyone wants to be a freebie in this country. Arey madam, humko grant de do, grant de do. Arey, where will the Bharat Sarkar get the grant from?
Yeah.
So this question of how we can fix the onus on ULBs is a baseless question. Absolutely. We have to, for each one of us to understand when whichever areas of operation that we exist or operate, we have to first obey the laws ourselves. We must construct our houses in such a way, even palatial bungalows, if we are in the elite society, which are in conformation of building bylaws. Know where the septic tanks should be in basements and areas which are unapproachable. Then in rural areas, we're having such few deaths. Why? Because most of this, we have moved from the twin fit technology, where the fecal sludge automatically disintegrates in one fecal thing. And we have Akshay Kumar and these stars promoting how they put their hand and saying, okay, but today, in other countries, this fecal, like Australia, is without any sewer systems. It is entirely septic tank based. And we cannot say that humans will not go in there. Even in Australia and Hong Kong, there are deaths, but very few, 2, 3 people in a whole year. Here, as the statistics showed you, and this is from my website, that we have lost 100 lives. Why is it happening? People are engaging these people, contractual workers, they are giving them 2,000 rupees, 3,000, very well realizing it is a banned activity. It should not be done. Your housing societies in most metropolitan cities have elite houses with 50 lakhs each flat cost. They do not have an STP below. Why?
Yeah.
Why are they not getting it clean? Why are the Resident Welfare Association not mindful of all these things?
Yeah. So thank you,
it's
ma'am.
easy to say that CEO of the municipality will get it clear.
What
implicate
Yogita ma'am is saying is it is not, the responsibility is also on the individuals,
absolutely,
on the society. So I think it's a extremely valid point.
Making harder laws is not the solution. Making harder laws, okay, 10 years imprisonment, 20 years kar do. It's already there. It's not available, but how do we enforce it? Unless we can't enforce in this country, if it's huge numbers, we need the support of the public. We need
it's a very clear message that it is everybody's responsibility. It's not just a government's responsibility. Absolutely. Having said that, even the building approval is also given by the municipality. So when they look at the fire safety, they should also look at whether the toilet has come at the right place. As Mr. Dhaval said, many of these laws are actually not communicated to individuals, even in hotels, restaurants, where we mentioned about it. So the responsibility, the legal provisions of these regulations are not properly communicated. So as an NFSM Alliance, there is a huge responsibility to support organizations, support government, support stakeholders, and also work with organizations like Dickey to disseminate this information across the length and breadth of the country. So thank you very much, audience, for taking out your time and joining this event. Parnasha, are there any other burning issues? Otherwise, it's pretty late. I would like to thank Yogita ma'am. I would like to thank Mr. Ravi Kumar. I would like to thank Rakesh and all the panelists and speakers who are not there on this right now for their active participation. On behalf of Shashanka and I, as facilitators, I would like to thank all of you. Parnasha and Ria, they are just silently at the back. They have done a great job in putting this whole program together. Thank you very much. Great deal of appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Chari. Thanks everyone from the NFSM Alliance on behalf of the Alliance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Bye. Bye.